Well, hello, everybody out in Manchester, Auburn, and Hooksett. This is the live Wednesday edition of the Progress Report. And because it is the first Wednesday of the month, as it has been our practice for quite some time, I have the great pleasure of welcoming back my good friend and the Dean of the Senate, the Honorable Lou D'Alessandro.
Thank you very much, Bob.
One of our three senators representing the great city of Manchester. He also represents Goffstown. And you're chairing finance again, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because we have the majority, so you can be the
I
chair.
could be the chair,
And
right?
I get to chair a committee myself.
Yeah,
So that's great, and we're hoping we'll have some participation tonight, as we always do. If you want to call in and participate, it's 640-3091. And we are really pleased to have back as a guest tonight Dr. Susan Huard, who has been for 9.5 years
Yes.
Right.
the president of Manchester Community College. And it seems like every major issue in the state, this college is addressing in some of its programs and innovations and new offerings. So we're going to be really interested to talk with Dr. Huard about what's going on at MCC, because it is a tremendous asset to our community, no question about it. And
Thank you.
And I think we're really pleased you could join us.
Appreciate
We've
it.
had you on before, but it's been quite a while.
It has been.
Right.
And a lot has changed, and a lot of new initiatives and new things are happening. But Lou, I wanted to turn to you first and get your take on how the current session year is going, and we have the majority, so we're expecting some good things.
Well, we hope so. We have the majority in both the House and the Senate. That's very meaningful. We have not had the majority for the last three sessions.
Yeah.
So it's good to have the majority back. A lot of legislation has been proposed, I think more than I've seen in a long time. We had, 500 bills in the Senate, 1,000 bills in the House. A lot of bills for the first session, particularly in the Senate, but we'll deal with them and get them going. And a lot of bills that are related to mental health, opiate abuse, and what's happening in our mental health treatment centers and not centers that we don't have, and a real push to get some things done and to get stabilization in terms of the emergency rooms. People can't be in the emergency rooms, so we've got to have places for those people to go and to be serviced. And I think there's a tremendous emphasis to make that happen. There are three bills that have passed the Senate and passed the Finance Committee in the Senate. The first is Senate Bill 1 as amended, and that's the Family Paid Leave Bill.
Huge priority.
Huge priority.
For both of our caucuses.
For both the House and the Senate. As a matter of fact, the paid family leave bill was heard in the House today, but we passed it as amended, and it'll go to the floor of the Senate. Came out of the city, came out of Finance 4-2. Well, we expected that, but it'll go to the floor of the Senate, be voted on by the Senate. It does have a price tag, and that price tag has to be dealt with. But in the long run, it's something that is good for New Hampshire. It's good for the labor force. It provides people with an opportunity to get some compensation when they're on leave, and it also retains their job, which is important. And retaining our labor force is extremely important, something we have to do. We have another piece of legislation, Senate Bill 5, which comes up with some money to deal with the mental health crisis, and it has a significant match on the federal side. The match may be as large as $43 million, it may be as small as $39 million, but there's $3 million up front in general fund. And in this situation, that general fund money will come out of the fiscal year 19 surplus, because you got to get it going as quickly as you can. And the key element there is it won't lapse. There'll be a non-lapsing feature, so that if it isn't done in the first 6 months, you'll have the money carry over, and you'll be able to use it in the next fiscal year. And there's an amendment to that bill, which provides an additional $5 million emergency dollars for problems having to do with housing and the treatment of mental health as well as the drug situation. That's got to scoot through quickly, because that money is needed in the community. There are certain entities that are struggling to survive, and this money will keep them going and keep the treatment process in place. And then there's a real significant piece of legislation which we're working on as we speak, Senate Bill 11. And Senate Bill 11 deals with mental health. It deals with mobile crisis centers. It deals with rates, which are significant, increasing rates for patient care. And got to pass, and it's got to get through. We've worked on it all day today. We worked on an amendment and spent previous time working on it to try to get it so that it's accepted by both sides of the aisle and that we can get this through with a very positive recommendation, and the governor will look on it very favorably and move it forward. So that's what's happening in my committee. As we speak, a lot of bills, and that's as I said, it doesn't usually happen this way in the first year of the session. It's a budget year. You usually concentrate on the budget to try to get the budget through. Many of these things are off budget because of the surplus that we have going through fiscal year.
About 19 million?
Well, I looked at the Focus today, and the Focus today indicated that it had about $140 million.
$140 million?
Yeah. But
I imagine there's many, many demands on that figure.
Many, you could bet your life on that one.
Yeah.
Significant demands. But the business taxes continue to perform. The thing that we've got to adjust to is this anomaly caused by the federal changes in the tax law, repatriation of money coming from overseas back to the United States. And I think when we had the amnesty provision in the business taxes, we produced $17.1 million, but we opened up many new avenues for business taxes by people who were not participating in the program paying, taking advantage of the amnesty. So I think those two things combined, and reducing the rate from 8.5 to 7.9, that did have an effect. I don't think it should go any lower than that, but reducing it did have a positive effect.
You really believe that, huh? You don't think this would have happened without that?
I think it would have happened
Yeah.
without that. I don't think there's any question about that. But I think the realization is that the people who were had a bit of trepidation about paying, paid the new rate, and I think that opened up a stream around
Extremely interesting.
The proof will be in the March and April returns. Let's see how they are.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game in this business.
Okay. So, Susan, thank you for coming in and joining us. It's a real pleasure to have you back here because, as we were discussing before we came into the studio, it seemed like the Manchester Community College is, in one way or another, dealing in some degree with every major problem we've got in the state of New Hampshire.
Well, I would say needs, because some of them are good economic needs.
And so, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. I know you've been a president of the community college for quite a while, but tell us a little bit about yourself as we start.
Oh, okay. I grew up in Massachusetts, so I'm one of the many people who've had the good sense to move to New Hampshire, and have worked in community colleges in New York and Connecticut. I taught high school and junior high at one point. And for confusion, I was at the other Manchester Community College, which is in Manchester, Connecticut.
Oh, really?
Yes, when I first came, Charlie Sherman was interviewing me on his radio show, and I hadn't thought about it. And he was saying, "So what's it like to be back here?" And I'm thinking, I have never been here. And so we ended up in a break and finally figured out that he didn't realize there was one in Connecticut. So my standing joke is, there's a third one in Iowa, but I'm not going for a complete
Well, we have
set.
many Manchesters, but this is the best one.
This is absolutely the best one. I have really, really enjoyed my time here.
Okay, well, that's great. The community college is a window of opportunity for so many people, and so many of the issues that we have, the statistic that just sticks in my craw is, our students in New Hampshire attending schools of higher learning seem to end up with, in many cases, very high student debt loads. And, I think that's partly because we don't fund our university system very well, 50th in the nation. But the community college system is a partial answer to that, is it not?
It is. And our students who graduate with debt, it's under $15,000. Not that I don't in any way want to say $15,000 isn't a lot of money, but most of our students are already working. I think the latest figure was about 90% of our student body actually
Really?
works. So that yes, and 2/3 of the student body is part-time. Now things are changing. When I first came, the average student was 34. And she had at least one child. Our average age now is about 25. And so we
Really?
have more 18 and 19-year-olds, and I really think that's a reflection of families saying, how can I get an affordable education? And let's start at the community college.
Yeah.
And when I first came, probably it was a very low percentage of the students who were transferring immediately. And that percentage has grown. At this point,
I mean, transferring to a four-year
to
school.
a four-year school after they complete with us. Yes, exactly. And so, we've got students who are going to more than a dozen different colleges. Our top three are UNH, which you would expect, SNHU, and then we go down to Granite State College and some places outside of the state, but we won't talk about those places because
No, we want people to
the
stay here.
majority are those are at our top three receiving institutions. So more students are coming. A third of the student body are in liberal arts and transfer programs. So they know the moment they walk in the door that what they're trying to do is their first 2 years with us and then go on. I appreciate the support of UNH with their Granite Guarantee this year. They've now opened the door so that our students can graduate with their associate degree and go there. And what the Granite Guarantee is doing for a student who has Pell eligibility, so the federal grant, is it pays the tuition. And so those kinds of arrangements help. And then, of course, we have what people know us for, the technical trades, where our automotive students don't graduate with any debt because they're with us for one semester, and then after that, they're 8 weeks in the college and 8 weeks at a place of business. And so that faculty in particular will work with students and help them figure out so that they're taking what they're earning during their internship and applying it. Same kind of circumstance with our HVAC students as well. So
Is that unique to MCC?
the HVAC program
Yeah.
is unique to MCC, yes. And in fact, there are only 4 high schools in the state that offer it. And so one of the things that we're really trying to grow is the early college program, which would permit a student who's in high school to actually come and for half the cost take the college courses on our campus. The community college system has the Running Start program where we teach college level courses in the high schools. But there's a companion program that only started a few years ago that would permit a high school student to come and take college courses while still in high school. So HVAC is a particular area that I would love to see grow. One of our sister colleges, Nashua, has about 130 early college students. We don't have as many, but I do see real opportunity, particularly in advanced manufacturing and robotics and some of the unique areas that we have. Automotive, we have several manufacturers programs. Students can go into the Chrysler program, the Ford, Audi, Subaru. There's a generic program as well. But 2 years out, people are making $85,000, $90,000.
Wow.
So it's a very good career, and because they're getting an associate degree, they can actually go on and they can put some type of a business degree on top of that. In fact, that happens with many of the HVAC students who
Wow.
decide they want to go into their own business.
So we hear regarding the University of New Hampshire system, which we have, I think, a very fine university, despite our minuscule state support, that one of the problems is we give these people a first-rate education, and then they're leaving the state in numbers that we would like not to see.
Right.
Is your college?
Well, I'll brag. We
Please
have
do.
98% of our students stay in the state.
Wow.
Yes.
That's worth
for the-
bragging about.
It is. It is. For the entire system, the community college system is 93%, but for Manchester, it's 98%. Now, I don't know how many of those stay right in this area, but I'm going to hope that it's many of the students.
Well, I hope it is too, but
Yeah.
if they stay in the state at 98%,
Yeah.
That's a big
that
number.
is spectacular. And how many of your students actually continue on to a further degree?
That's a hard question to answer. Right up front, going right from graduating with us and then immediately enrolling is about 25%. But if you look at it over a 5-year period, it's at least double that. So about 50 to 60% within the first 5 years.
So we are hearing, I hear in the legislature, and I'm sure Senator Lou does too, all the time about, what's making New Hampshire not as competitive should be. We hear about electricity prices. I heard so much about that. I can't stand it. It's largely a myth, but we hear about it. And then we hear the one thing everybody seems to agree upon is workforce development and having our young people train and stay here. Sounds like you and the other community college, but maybe you more than any other, really are, are responding to this.
Yes, I mean, sometimes people say workforce development or college, and it's and. You can do both, and we have everything from, this is the second year we have a wonderful partnership with Eversource where we're training line workers.
Right.
We have graduating
Yeah,
in
they
third
need
class.
those people.
Badly.
They really need
Badly.
those people.
Yes.
Yeah, I was at their facility out in Hooksett the other day. I'd never been there before.
Oh, and Legends Drive.
And
no.
Legends Drive. I guess you've been there. I'd never been there
have.
before. And they were very clear. In every storm, you get these buckets, and they're great.
Right.
But you always need people to climb.
Right.
You actually need people to do that, and that's
Yeah.
not Lou and I.
Right.
We're not going to climb those
Or
damn
me.
holes.
Or me.
Or you.
Yeah, no, not so much.
And so this
Yeah.
is this is really good to hear that there's people.
It is, and
you're
that's a
funneling to that
Yeah.
company, which is so important.
And that's a great example because those are young men and women who are going into high voltage electricity.
Yeah, I don't want to be
It's-
anywhere near it.
Well, they're doing a wonderful job. So